You're listening to the best of Ruocco and Rothenberg on ESPNNewYork.com. You hear them every weekday beginning at noon, only on ESPN New York 98.7 FM.
Dave?
Yes, Ryan.
Yesterday there was a lot of stories about a plane. A plane that flew over the Jets practice facility and had a Fire John Idzik banner on it. Rex Ryan saw it.
No, I was aware of it, when I... it was the early part of practice in there, and I looked up, and I'm like, oh, man. That was, I did see it.
Geno Smith was aware of it.
I don't agree with it, but, I understand at this point everyone's frustrated, and we all are inside of this locker room as well. Obviously this isn't what we expected, to be this point in our season, to be 1-8, but we're still trying hard, man. We're still doing our best to devise a plan and find a way to get a victory. And it's going to take a strong effort from every single guy, but I believe we have the guys in here that can do it.
Michael Vick even saw it, Dave.
It's annoying, you see that, and you out trying to, practice and put everything into practice and all your efforts, and then you see something that becomes a distraction, and then it's a whole bunch of negative thoughts that start going through your head, and now it's everybody's attention is up in the sky, as opposed to on the practice field. But I'll tell you what, our guys did a great job of just staying focused. We understand what's at stake. Obviously we understand the frustration. We're frustrated as well, but we got to keep our emotions intact and keep going.
Well, you know what? Don't lose games. Really. If you don't want banners to fly over your headquarters and your practice facility, you know what you do? You go out and you win games. Because I don't think they're doing it in Denver. And I'm pretty certain that's not happening up in Foxborough in New England. And I actually thought you were going to take a different tack than I am. No, I never am a proponent of being like nasty and horrible. And, some people on Twitter, Ryan, they go after you. It's just, they're animals, right? And I think that, getting physical with other fans at games, there's a line that's crossed all the time. But I got to be honest with you. Fans don't have a lot of ways outside of going to a game and booing their team of expressing how they feel. And this is a fan, and an anonymous fan at that, who spent, this seems like a great deal to me, under $1,000 to get a plane and a banner to make a statement, spends $1,000 or thereabout to say, I am unhappy with the way the Jets are going. And I've heard a lot of, well, that doesn't do anything. Well, you know what? It does. You don't think that you heard every player comment on it. I'm sure the owners saw it. I'm sure the owner's embarrassed by it. So I'm not saying I would do it, but I've heard a lot of people come on and say, you should just donate to breast cancer awareness. Well, why? Well, who are you to tell me how I should spend my money as long as I'm spending my money legally? It doesn't mean this woman doesn't donate tons of money to other charitable causes. I actually kind of like it.
You know what? I do think it makes an impact. If I'm the owner and I'm seeing the outrage and the examples of outrage, whether it's, people not showing up to the game and having a crowd filled with yellow and black.
Which is, what's it going to be? Of the 80,000-seat stadium this weekend, you think it's 50,000 Steelers?
I think it'll be at least 40. Yeah.
At a minimum, half and half.
And whether it's that or it's emails or letters or calls or websites or a plane flying over, I do think all of that collectively has an effect on the owner and how he feels about the situation. So if you are trying to make an impact, that is a way to do it. And it drove me insane hearing people say yesterday, oh, my gosh, how could you spend your money doing that rather than donating to charity? Now, let me say this.
Now, Michael Vick was one of the leaders of that. Right? Listen, I know second chance. I get it. That's fine. I think Michael Vick spent more than a penny on things that were illegal in his lifetime.
No doubt. And I don't advocate aggressively pursuing somebody being fired. I'm uncomfortable with that. I really am. Even if I think it's time to move on from somebody, if I was the owner of the Jets, would I move on from John Idzik? I would. But I think a campaign to have somebody lose their job and affect their livelihood, it feels wrong to me. However, as a fan, do I think it's wrong for you to try and spark a change that you believe needs to happen with an organization you care about? No, and here's why, Dave. If you're going to use there's so many better things you could do with your money than that argument, okay, well, then none of us should go to games, okay?
Or the movies.
Yeah, because every single time we purchase a ticket for a sporting event, there's something better and more useful we could be doing with our money, all right? So if you're going to sit there and say, oh, my gosh, that is incredulous that he's spending money or she's spending money on a plane to fly over because that money could be going somewhere more useful. Okay, well, you know what? When you buy a Snickers bar at the counter.
Do you really need it?
No, that money could be going somewhere more useful.
Or when you spend $4 at Starbucks every morning?
Or when you go to a Jet game on a Sunday. All of that money could be going somewhere more useful.
I've never heard Michael Vick complaining about, you know what, why do people wear the Jets jersey number 7 with Vick on it, right? You could be spending that money in a much wiser way, right?
Because he's collecting a nice chunk.
Oh, he's one. Sorry, Jeff.
He's collecting a nice chunk of money, though, in part because of the revenue that's spent on jersey sales, including his.
Exactly.
We all want to find a balance with our finances so that we can allocate to charity and still do things that we want. And remember this, too. When you do spend money like that, it's helping somebody keep a job. You know, whoever the pilot was of that plane, whoever owns the plane.
That's right. Keeps the company afloat.
It's not bad for the economy.
Puts food on the table of that company's owner, right?
That's right. So if we really want to break it down to that degree, it wasn't a sin that was committed as far as where the finances
Let me ask you a question. How are fans supposed to get their dissatisfaction out with their team? Really, like what are the avenues? You can call us, right?
Yeah.
And say, Dave, Ryan, Michael K., Mike Lupica, I can't
Don't forget
deal with
Don. Why are you going to forget Don?
And Don
LaGreca.
Yeah, no, I know who Don is. By the way, I brought his lunch bag satchel in today.
Where did he forget it?
He forgot at the Rangers game.
I would think if there's anything he wouldn't forget, it would be that.
So you may say I forget Don, but I didn't forget Don when it really mattered. Anyhow,
good.
How many outlets do we have as fans, right? You have the outlet of calling Sports Talk and saying, I'm dissatisfied. You have the opportunity to not go to the games, which is certainly felt by the owner, I'm sure. And what else can you do? You can start the Fire Idzik websites, or you could do something like this. I actually think it's kind of creative. You know that the owner knows what went on. You heard Rex Ryan knows what went on. Michael Vick commented on it. So this person, you're talking about getting your investment worth, right? This person spent, I don't know, $900 whatever dollars, less than $1,000 we know, to make a loud statement of, I'm dissatisfied with the general manager of this club, and now everybody knows that's the way that person feels, and it's a big topic of conversation. I kind of love it in some way.
I actually think it's an effective strategy. I'm uncomfortable with somebody campaigning that aggressively for another person to lose their job. That doesn't make me feel good, warm, or happy. But if you're asking me, do I think it's an effective strategy? Yeah, I kind of do. 1-800-919-3776, the telephone number on the Lexus of Route 10 Celebrity Hotline. Steve in Jersey. Steve, you're on with Ruocco and Rothenberg.
Hey, how you doing? Ryan, you sort of just summed up everything I wanted to say in what your last sentence. But, yeah, I don't – you guys are right. I don't like it. I mean, in fact, I started off the listening and saying, oh, no, Dave, you're wrong. You are so wrong, Dave.
I get that often.
But, and then, like, as you guys talked about, I'm thinking, like, wow, the effect that it could have and the fact that it become, national news and something we're talking about, the trickle-down effect that it could have is pretty insane from, something out of the pockets of one specific person. But they are speaking for a lot of New York. I mean, I'm a Giants fan, and I think, I actually love Rex Ryan. And I'm going to be sad to see him go.
Can I ask you why, Steve?
Why I'm a fan of Rex Ryan?
Yeah, what is it about Rex Ryan that you're such a fan? Like, I hear this from Jets fans and people that are fans of the NFL all the time. I love Rex Ryan. And I'm being serious. What is it about Rex Ryan that you like so much?
Well, the first thing is that he's proved that he's effective. I mean, obviously, he took a young quarterback to back-to-back finals. I mean, look, people revere Tom Coughlin. And if you look at the two, obviously the Jets didn't go to the Super Bowl, but Tom Coughlin has a whole bunch in the last 5 years of losing amongst two Super Bowls. And, it's like, okay, so we're going to take their full resume in his case, but we're not going to take the full resume in Rex.
Well, you know what else? That's like, I mean, come on now, Steve. Taking the full resume of Tom Coughlin compared to the full resume of Rex Ryan is not a fair fight.
And you don't take the full resume. Nobody ever takes the full resume of Tom Coughlin. You know why? Because he's got 2 AFC Championship game appearances with the Jacksonville Jaguars, and that's not even on there. Nobody cares about that.
And that, by the way, that equals what Rex did. So take that and then 2 Super Bowls.
Yeah, so that the one thing is the pedigree that Rex has, and then the other thing is just I like his attitude. I feel like he's got guys that do get fired up around him. I'm not sure if he has those guys right now, but he has that charisma like he had like the ability to last year,
Yeah, but it's over, Steve. It's over. For whatever reason, this guy has not, has he been given the perfect players? No. But the fact of the matter is this. He is going to miss the playoffs now for a fourth straight season.
And do it in epic fashion this year. Honestly, and I mean this completely sincerely, I can't believe that in New York, where we have no time or patience for anything, that there's a large portion of people, Ryan, that are so pro Rex Ryan. I think he's great. I think he's a motivator. I think he gets so much out of his team. I think it's phenomenal what he's able to accomplish, where I guess it must be his personality. People like the fact that you ask him a question and he gives you an answer of which he believes. He has that bravado. He has that boisterous nature. Because honestly, if it was me and this was my team, I would want to move on from Rex Ryan.
Well, at this point, his personality is great, but if he can't do the job, who cares? And right now, he can't do the job. That doesn't mean he can't be a coach somewhere else. It doesn't mean he won't go on to be a very good defensive coordinator for the rest of his career. But he has gone 6 years without developing an offense. It's an important side of the ball.
I haven't had a quarterback in 6 years.
Right. You can't just ignore it. It's time. It is time. Brian in Holbrook. Brian, you're on the Lexus of Route 10 Celebrity Hotline.
What's going on, guys? I'm a big fan of both you, big fan of the show.
Thank you, Brian.
Anyway, I was going to say something different, but when you say why do so many New Yorkers like Rex Ryan, I can tell you why. Because he's like a New Yorker. Like you said, he speaks what's on his mind. He's a funny guy. From Hard Knocks a couple of years ago, I fell in love with him. I'm a Giants fan as well, and I fell in love with the guy. But anyway, my main point is what I was going to say is I would never spend $1,000 for a plain advertisement or anything like that. I'm a diehard, and I'm with you, Ryan. I just don't think it's right. It doesn't feel right that they're campaigning to get someone fired, even though he has done a pretty terrible job.
But that's how dissatisfied this fan base is. This fan base, think about this, Ryan, has dealt with failure for a long time.
Really long
They're
time.
at the point right now where this is failure beyond what they're even accustomed to seeing.
It'd be one thing if you were watching this team fail and at the same time watching the development of young players.
Absolutely.
It'd be totally different. But last season you finished on an uptick. You had an owner talk about how things turn around quickly in this league. Just look what happened with Seattle. Then you didn't spend money. Fine. But what's the most crushing part of all of this is there is no young player for you to hang your hat on and say, at least I got that guy this year. Like right now, if you're a Giants fan, you have Odell Beckham to get excited about in the future. Doesn't mean you're going to be happy with this season, but at least there's a carrot to hang on to after the results.
But if the Jets had Odell Beckham and we're sitting here at 1-8, you'd still want Idzik to be fired.
Maybe, but I feel a little bit better about it.
Yes, the Giants have a little more optimistic reason.
But if they're in different places, it's totally different
Right.
argument. You had 12 draft picks. 4 are currently on your roster. Flatly unacceptable. And the other guys I'm sorry, are you excited about Calvin Pryor? I've seen nothing to make me think he's
been
a good
very
safety.
quiet. Very quiet. Amara looks okay. You haven't gotten anything out of the draft. You got very little out of free agency. You still have the huge quarterback issue that you had last year and the year before and the year before and the year before that. And you're just not competing in games. So, I like it. I really do. When I saw the plane fly over, my first thought was, it's just mean. It's awful. It bothers me. And the more I thought of it, I was like, you know what? It's the fans, or at least this one fan, making a statement. And I really kind of like that.
It may be mean, but it may also be effective.
Are you eating a sandwich?
I just felt like we needed.
Why did you do that?
Because people want to know, what it sounds like when you ask that question.
Who eating a sandwich?
I'm not sure. John Idzik, the person who flies the plane, the person who paid for the plane.
I hope the person that flew the plane wasn't also eating a sandwich as they flew the plane.
You don't think pilots eat while they're in the air?
No, they one of them goes out and eats, and the other one stays in and flies.
I think they could have a sandwich in the cockpit if they wanted to.
I don't want my pilot eating sandwiches while we fly.
Why are you worried
this
about?
This is interesting.
I'm flying today, so be careful.
No, this is really interesting, though.
Okay.
So do you know when they serve a meal on a plane, 2 pilots, they give them different meals in case the one of them is bad?
Ooh.
Yes.
That's smart.
So that if one of them eats the chicken and the chicken is rancid, is going to make them deathly ill, the other one had the steak and potentially won't become ill.
That's good. So he could still fly the plane while the other's in the bathroom.
You didn't know that?
I didn't know that.
And you'll feel a little better flying today.
But are you actually worried about, cold cuts getting on the steering wheel? Or
No, I don't think you're concerned about, messing up the cockpit. I think you're concerned about becoming ill. Right? I mean, if you serve the pilot...
No. I agree in this scenario, but I'm just saying you don't want them eating in the cockpit.
Well, I want them to focus on the flight.
Yeah, but I would rather them... They're going to eat at some point. I'd rather
when you land. I don't think it was like a transcontinental flight. They flew from an airport 2 minutes away. They go up. They go across Florin Park. They come down.
Well,
when you come down, then you eat.
In this case, they didn't need to eat. But on a flight to L.A., if they want to eat something, I'd rather them eat it in the cockpit than have to go out.
No, I'd prefer they go out.
Oh, I'd rather them be manning the plane and eating.
I don't want distraction. Well, what does that button do? Oh, this is a nice roast beef sandwich. I don't want any of that.
So you'd rather them just vacate the cockpit?
No, if there's one guy, he stays in the cockpit. If there's two, I would think on a flight to L.A., they got more than one guy up there.
Ruocco and Rothenberg with you on ESPN New York 98.7 FM, 1-800-919-3776, the telephone number on the Lexus of Route 10 hotline. How you guys feel about the plane flying overhead? Dave and I think of the opposite view of most, but we are in agreement. We think it's actually kind of effective.
You're listening to the best of Ruocco and Rothenberg on ESPNNewYork.com. You hear them every weekday beginning at noon, only on ESPN New York 98.7 FM.
Steven in Brooklyn. Steven, you're on the Lexus of Route 10 hotline.
Good afternoon, guys.
Good afternoon, Steven.
So I was calling to say about selling the team like the previous caller, so I won't repeat that. But if they do fire Idzik, they've got to fire the entire scouting and everybody who's ever been there since day one because, Woody just fires people, but then he puts them in different positions like Terry Bradway and others. Yeah, I just want to ask one net question to Ryan, if that's okay.
Oh, yeah, go for it, Steven.
Being in Brooklyn, obviously a big Nets fan.
Mm-hmm.
What are your thoughts of starting Plumlee over Garnett so he's in at the end of the game? Because Garnett seems to be running out of gas all the time from last year and even this year.
Well, I don't know. Garnett didn't run out of gas against Detroit a couple games ago, and I didn't think he necessarily ran out of gas last night either. Brook Lopez was terrible last night. Brook Lopez played one of the worst games I can ever remember seeing him play.
That's why they lost last night.
Yes. You don't want to ever put it on one guy. Joe Johnson had a turnover down the stretch, and after Darren Williams played 3 really good quarters, he struggled in the fourth. But here's the thing. Brook Lopez, when he's not hitting his shots, all of a sudden those areas where he's deficient really are glaring. And he's slow-footed, rotating on D.
He's not a very good defensive player to begin with.
No, he's gotten better, shot blocking, but last night he was having all kinds of trouble with Nikola Pekovic. He wasn't rotating quickly on defense. And then he came up with very stupid mistakes down the stretch as well. Nets had a chance to tie the game, and he on an inbound unnecessarily elbowed someone for an offensive foul that it just blew their chance of tying the game. He had a bad game last night. He did.
It happens. So did Carmelo Anthony.
Yeah, he had a bad game last night. It happens. It was a bad game to lose because you're up 2 with 90 seconds to go against an inexperienced bad team or seemingly bad team in Minnesota. Bad game to lose, no question about it. But you're going to have some. You're going to have some of those throughout the course of an NBA season. Nick in Tom's River. Nick, you're on the Lexus of Route 10 hotline.
Hey, fellas, thanks for taking my phone call. I'm not a Jet fan, but when Geno Smith got in there, I really tried to root for the Jets. After every one of these games, I feel like I need to take a bath. But the point I'm making is that, I'm not a Jet fan, but if I wanted to go to a Jet game and buy 2 tickets on StubHub with the parking and then the beer and the food, I'd spend $900. If I'm a Jet fan, I might as well spend it on that plane.
Yeah, look, I think we're both in pretty much lockstep with you. And I don't know, you're going to spend $900 on parking and 2 tickets and a couple beers. But, yeah, you know what? You're making a statement. You can go to a game anytime. You can go, you sit down, you watch your team. That's fine. This is a moment. This is a moment that you'll remember. I mean, I really get behind this because they did nothing wrong. They didn't cross that line. There was no booing. There was no violence. There was nothing that you heard that really you shake your head. You don't want your kids to hear about. This is a lesson. Look, you want to make a statement. This is one of the very few ways that a fan can, and this fan did, and it's something that carried over to today that we're talking about.
What was your favorite subject in school?
Gym. Is that a subject?
It is now.
You're listening to the best of Ruocco and Rothenberg on ESPNNewYork.com. You hear them every weekday beginning at noon, only on ESPN New York 98.7 FM.
If you thought the chase for the NASCAR Sprint Cup was hot before, it's boiling over now. Contact Gordon and Keselowski. Jeff Gordon may have a flat tire. And he does. Spinning, turn 4.
I'm going to race him the same way he races me, but that kind of stuff's just uncalled for.
4 spots remain heading into Phoenix.
A chance at the championship hangs in the balance. The end is near.
The Quicken Loans Race for Heroes 500 at Phoenix, Sunday at 2 Eastern on ESPN.
For 4 nations, their championship hopes are finished in Phoenix.
You're listening to the best of Ruocco and Rothenberg on ESPNNewYork.com. You hear them every weekday beginning at noon, only on ESPN New York 98.7 FM.
I have to imagine our good friend Mike Greenberg is not happy with the season that he's seen thus far from Gang Green. And Greeny joins us on the Lexus of Route 10 Celebrity Hotline. Greeny, we know it's a bad year. Is this season a lot different than what you expected?
It is. Unfortunately, it is. I think, guys, the last time I spoke to you was leading into week one, and I was saying that I felt that the Jets absolutely needed to beat Oakland because I thought they had a chance to have a season. I thought they had a chance if they went 3-4 through that gauntlet of the first 7 games, that things would turn, the schedule would turn a little bit in their favor, and that they had a real shot to make a playoff run this year. And what I missed was I completely underestimated just how woeful the situation was in the defensive secondary. And obviously the D. Milner injury didn't help, but that isn't the only factor. And the reason that those planes are flying over the Jets practice facility now saying fire John Idzik more than anything is because he left them so weak and so vulnerable at a critical position, considering the way their coach wants to play and they want to win, that he really gave them no chance to win with a team that otherwise, I believe, had a chance not to win a Super Bowl, but to have a real season this year. Even if you look at the way things broke, they certainly could have beaten Green Bay. They were up 21-3. They could have won that Chicago game. They had a chance or two against Detroit. They had a real chance to beat New England. You know, they could have won a couple of those games early. Who knows how the momentum kind of turns. That said, it's been, I just insert your own word, it's been deflating, it's been disappointing, it's been horrible, and it cannot end soon enough. I guess that's probably the best way to put it. It cannot possibly end soon enough.
Everybody knows how much you love the Jets. You wear it on your chest, and you lead with that everywhere you go, and that's fine, and we're all huge fans. But is there some part of you that looks at this season and said, you know what, if we're not going to go to the playoffs, if we're going to be a sub-500 team, let's be really bad. Let's be so bad that it means we're going to get a top 3 pick. Let's be so bad that it means maybe we have to go with the new regime. Let's be so bad that we can strip it all the way down and maybe get it right next time?
Well, there's a couple of different factors at play there. First and foremost, I do believe that they need to strip it all the way down, which is to say they have a handful of building block pieces, mostly on their defensive front. But outside of that, and they have a lot of cap room. So I think that makes it a fairly attractive situation for someone to come in and start building the thing up from the very bottom. And as I said to Mike Lupica when I was on with him last week, I believe that Woody Johnson needs to figure out who the next Bill Polian is going to be. Somewhere there's some guy sitting in a gym with a stopwatch right now who is going to be the next Bill Polian, and that's who I want him to hire to come in and just run the operation and hire whoever the next Tony Dungy is going to be and build the thing up from the bottom. So, I mean, would a high draft pick aid in that? I suppose it would. I would be more inclined to root for good things to happen if I thought that they were really developing a quarterback. But if they have Michael Vick out there, who clearly isn't going to be the future of the Jets at quarterback, then you're not even really accomplishing that. And I think they've given up on Geno Smith, and quite frankly, I think even I've given up on Geno Smith. So there really isn't almost anything left to root for. So, I mean, in the long run, it probably does benefit them more to lose games than it does to win games. I never sit there and actively root for them to lose, but I'm certainly a whole lot less upset when these games are over now than I was in September.
Greeny, Mike Greenberg with us on the Lexus of Route 10 Celebrity Hotline here with Ruocco and Rothenberg on ESPN New York 98.7 FM. Greeny, I know that we all knew that Alex Rodriguez did what he was denying, but somehow his admission got under my skin yesterday because it bothers me the ease with which he lies and has over and over again. And last time he went through this, he said, judge me from this day forth, and that was in 2009. And obviously, if we're doing so, we're judging pretty harshly after all of this. Does it get to a point where if you're the organization, you're like, you know what, the money's already spent, forget it. He's not that good anymore anyway. Let's just disassociate.
Well, I don't know. I mean, that's a really good question. And I mean, part of it might have to do with what your alternatives are. And if they were to bring back like Chase Headley or something and decide to cut bait with Alex, that certainly would be a blow. I mean, just to walk away from $61 million is a very long walk. I was watching, Ryan, you guys yesterday with Michael and Don when the show opened, and I heard that conversation, and I thought it was a very good one. It's not so much the ease with which he lies. I'll give you the story we told on our show this morning. my partner Mike Golick has admitted that he used steroids at one point during his football career. He had a shoulder injury, and he was afraid that he wasn't going to be able to be in shape for the next season to begin and that he was going to get cut. He was a 10th-round pick, and he did a cycle of steroids. And what I said on the air this morning was, if he had been asked about it at the time, he would have lied. But what he would not have done is he would not have been willing to destroy other people to cover up what he had done. I just know he wouldn't. And so it's not so much the ease with which Alex lied, but it is the Lance Armstrongian way in which he was willing to destroy other people in order to save himself. And the way that suing the Yankees team doctor, I heard Michael talk about this with great passion yesterday, and suing his own union and suing baseball and everything he was willing to do. I mean, that is borderline sociopathic behavior, and that's the part of it that I would think bothers me most. Almost anyone in those circumstances, realistically, is going to lie about it. But the degree to which you are willing to go, I think, defines you as a person even more. And I think that decision has clearly been made.
Mike Greenberg with us on the Lexus of Route 10 Celebrity Hotline. Now, Greeny, we've all gotten into this college football playoff. You and Golick, I understand, are doing something very cool with that. Is that right?
Yeah, well, we've got this contest. This is our third one. In the spring, we took some of our listeners. We're going on 15 years now, Mike and me, which is still hard for me to believe. Ryan, how old were you 15 years ago when we started?
I was 12 years old, and I was listening.
Yeah, it's hilarious.
I've been with you from day one.
I could have been babysitting for you when we started this thing, but anyway, as our way of saying thank you, we've been trying to put together really cool promotions. So last year we sent some of our listeners to Hawaii, and then this spring, we brought a bunch of our listeners with us to the NBA Finals, and now this fall, the big new thing going on, of course, is this new college football playoff, and so we have a contest that couldn't be easier. All you have to do is what I hope you're doing anyway, which is listen to the show in the morning. And twice a morning we give you the winning word and we give you the ways to enter it. And you enter and you have a chance to win. And it runs for another 2.5 weeks. You can enter every day. And eventually we're going to bring some of our listeners and guests with us to Dallas in January for the game. You're going to have VIP access and outstanding accommodations and come do the show with us and then come to the game with us, which is a fabulous prize if you like college football or if you just like a big sporting spectacle. So we're thrilled to be able to do it, and really more than anything, it's our way of saying thanks to everybody for, spending all these mornings with us for 15 years, because you've made our lives far better than I think either of us ever imagined we had any chance for them to be when we started this thing.
You even made a 12-year-old Ryan Ruocco appreciate the genius of what good sports talk radio is. One more quick one for you. And Ryan said yesterday on the show, I don't have a lot of time, but I want to throw this your way. Ryan said yesterday on the show that Alex Rodriguez, big spot for the Yankees, he actually hopes he fails. If there was
early on, if the playoffs are on the line.
That's what you said.
Hold on. If the playoffs are on the line in late September and it's second and third, I'm going to have no choice because I'm going to want the rest of the guys.
Now it's changing.
No, early in the season, anytime he comes up, I want him to strike it.
All right, Greenies, well, let me ask you this question. If there was a Jets version of Alex Rodriguez, could you hope that he failed?
No, I wouldn't. I mean, the reality of it is that I wouldn't. I am blinded by my insane passion for my team. The same thing, Dave, I've heard you talk at great length about all the insanity that you go through with your fandom for the Giants, and I'm the same way. I mean, I'd like to think there's a cutoff. I mean, I don't want any violent criminals on the Jets. But, I'm well aware that I'm rooting at times for some good guys and some bad guys and some honest guys and some liars, and that there are countless players on every NFL team who are using performance-enhancing drugs. I think that almost goes without saying. And so I recognize that's what I'm rooting for. My fandom for my team has a lot more to do with me and my own personal history and my family's personal history with that team than it does with the players on the team itself. They're interchangeable. They come and go. I grew up with the Jets in the 70s and the early 80s of Joe Klecko and Mark Gastineau and Richard Todd and Bruce Harper and Scott Dierking and Kevin Long, and the list goes on, and none of them are still there. But I'm still there, and my parents are still there, and all the people I grew up rooting for them with are still there. So I'll root for the Jets as long as there's anything worth rooting for, really almost regardless of who it is that's playing for them.
Greeny, always love chatting with you. We'll talk to you again soon.
Thanks, guys. Good to talk to you again.
Thanks, Mike.
All right, Mike Greenberg joining us on the Lexus Route 10 Celebrity Hotline. I'm just wondering, Dave, what's your favorite Saturday morning cartoon when you were growing up?
I don't. What was it? All the Super Friends. Was it like the Justice League?
Justice League.
Was that the show? Oh,
Justice
loved. You know what I liked? I liked Aquaman.
Yeah?
I never thought he got the attention he deserved.
I think you're right. I'm glad he is now.
Yes.
Yes. All right. Fair enough.
You're listening to the best of Ruocco and Rothenberg on ESPNNewYork.com. You hear them every weekday beginning at noon, only on ESPN New York 98.7 FM.
If you thought the chase for the NASCAR Sprint Cup was hot before, it's boiling over now. Contact Gordon and Keselowski. Jeff Gordon may have a flat tire, and he does. Spinning, turn 4.
I'm going to race him the same way he races me, but that kind of stuff's just uncalled for.
4 spots remain heading into Phoenix.
A chance at the championship hangs in the balance. The end is near.
The Quicken Loans Race for Heroes 500 at Phoenix, Sunday at 2 Eastern on ESPN.
For 4 nations, their championship hopes are finished in Phoenix.
You're listening to the best of Ruocco and Rothenberg on ESPNNewYork.com. You hear them every weekday beginning at noon, only on ESPN New York 98.7 FM. This is ESPN New York's Fantasy.
You play to win the game.
Football.
I want winners.
Primer.
Do you understand the words that are coming out of my mouth?
Well, Eric Karabel joins us on the Lexus of Route 10 Celebrity Hotline for our Fantasy Football Primer. All right, Eric, let's start with this one. The Gio Bernard situation in Cincinnati. What is the value right now of Jeremy Hill?
Well, Jeremy Hill's a great play this week. Bernard's obviously not going to play in tonight's game. Hill looked great last week. He's running against a defense today that isn't very good against the run. When Bernard comes back, and we assume that he's not far away, I think this is a timeshare now, which means Bernard is no longer a top 10 running back. He'll be more of the pass catcher. Hill is a bigger guy. He'll be the touchdown guy. Hill becomes a top 20 running back. Cincinnati has 2 top 20 running backs.
All right, Eric, I had said earlier this week that just in regular NFL purposes, Mark Sanchez is Nick Foles. In fantasy purposes, do you believe that Mark Sanchez is every bit as good as what Nick Foles has been and would have been?
You know, Foles hadn't played very well this season. Among the turnover leaders, barely top 20 for fantasy. Yeah, I kind of believe it. Sanchez was the number 10 fantasy quarterback in 2011, so he has the skills. He certainly has weapons in Philadelphia that he did not have with the Jets. I'm expecting really no drop-off from the Philadelphia offense now, which is strange to say because it's Mark Sanchez, but Foles was playing so poorly, yeah, I think he'll be fine.
All right, when you look at the Dallas Cowboys and Demarco Murray, are we going to start to see him slow, or was he just slowed last week because it was a great run defense in Arizona?
I think it was all the great run defense and also very little threat of a downfield passing attack, which is why they were able to put 8 men in the box. So I'm not, and I expect Tony Romo is playing this weekend. I'm not worried about Murray at all. And it sounds strange to say that, there's a guy who's had injury problems in the past. Why wouldn't you sell high? Well, all these running backs can get hurt. So I don't really buy it. I wouldn't buy DeMarco Murray next season, but I don't think he's going to drop off. I'm expecting a huge week from him this week. The offensive line has played great, and Romo should be back.
LaShawn McCoy, the yards have been there the last few weeks. Do you think the touchdowns will come soon, Eric?
I think he'll get more than he's getting, which is not going to be, hard to do. I mean, he's getting none at this point. But I think McCoy is a top 5 running back, whether he's getting touchdowns or not. He's certainly getting enough yards. There's a threat of scores there. The matchup this week is fine. Carolina hasn't been able to stop much of anything lately. So, to me, McCoy is a guy you have to play no matter what, and the change in quarterback doesn't affect that. He should be getting in the end zone more than he has been. I mean, Darren Sproles has 3 rushing touchdowns, and McCoy has 1. That just doesn't add up.
Luck and Brady both on bye this coming week. Give me a guy or two that you can plug and play for 1 week.
Well, I mean, Sanchez, a quarterback, would be one of those guys. Is Josh McCown at Tampa Bay the worst option to pick up? He's available in pretty much all leagues at this point. Atlanta is awful against the pass. McCown does have elite weapons. I don't think too many people are thinking about him. I would be playing McCown over some of these rookies. I don't really trust Blake Bortles or Zach Mettenberger all that much right now. I think Brian Hoyer could have a decent game tonight. I wouldn't go near Eli Manning. And Kyle Orton, by the way, is averaging 18 fantasy points per game in his 4 starts, and he should be able to do well against Kansas City on Sunday. So I think Kyle Orton and Mark Sanchez are the most attractive available names.
Thank you very much, Eric.
You're listening to the best of Ruocco and Rothenberg on ESPNNewYork.com. You hear them every weekday beginning at noon, only on ESPN New York 98.7 FM.
If you thought the chase for the NASCAR Sprint Cup was hot before, it's boiling over now. Contact Gordon and Keselowski. Jeff Gordon may have a flat tire, and he does. Spinning, turn 4.
I'm going to race him the same way he races me, but that kind of stuff's just uncalled for.
4 spots remain heading into Phoenix.
A chance at the championship hangs in the balance. The end is near.
The Quicken Loans Race for Heroes 500 at Phoenix, Sunday at 2 Eastern on ESPN.
For 4 nations, their championship hopes are finished in Phoenix.